If you're with us by now, you'll know that we're far into the book. We've got to 95 pages in, and we're about to start section 2, chapter 2. If you're brand new to this, please roll back to the intro so you know what we're doing. It's a book written by Rabbi Mordechai Goodman, which is really a dictionary of Jewish thought. It's more of a dictionary, kind of thesaurus, rather than a personal work of his own. He's more of a rector of this work. And we finished one of the 4 volumes. We just finished one of the 4 volumes. And now we're starting the second volume, but we're into the second chapter. And we're talking about the concept of hashgacha, which is the whole theme of the entire second section. And that's God's influence or interface with life. Things that he has created outside of himself, how he interacts with them, how he interfaces with them, etc. And last time we left off saying that he's got to have a separate track to deal with humanity, because the green arrow affects all life, including humanity, but the red arrow is only shot into the system by humans. Humans affect the system itself, and God has to respond in kind to keep the circuitry of creation going, which means when we're dealing with humanity, we're dealing with things that have a separate, unique track which applies to them uniquely. So let's start on page 95. If you're using a different print, it's section 2, chapter 2, point 1. We have stated earlier that the purpose of creation of the human species is that humans should become worthy of attaining true good, namely being drawn close to God in the world to come. That is this world rebuilt without the evil in. That's not where you go when you die. Okay? Hence, the ultimate end of all of his evolvements is the tranquility of the world to come, which is a state of nearness to God, which must be the ultimate pleasure available. The highest wisdom decreed, however, that this would be best attained if humanity would first exist in the present world known as Olam Hazeh, which is this world in its current state with evil mixed into it, so that we can have a contrast between good and bad, so that we could freely choose the good and avoid the bad, so that we could get a wage because we've had to work for it, so that we can feel justified in getting the wage, so we can have that feeling of justification, which in and of itself is the best way of getting that good, in order that we get the best good possible, because God has to bestow the best good possible, because God is perfect and he can't fail at anything. So that's why the whole kit and caboodle of Bechira or free will had to be engineered, because without it, the good that we would receive would be faulty or not the ultimate good that's available. It'll be good, I'll take the money, but I won't feel justified. I think it's a gift and not a wage. And it's better that it's a wage for reasons we discussed earlier. Now, the highest wisdom decreed this would be best attained if man would first exist in the present world bound and limited by its natural laws. And that's the true and proper preparation necessary for this desired goal. And everything in this world, sunsets, roses, argon, was arranged so that it should serve as a means of preparing and readying humanity for its ultimate purpose. Point 2. This preparation involves 2 separate aspects. One concerns individuals, and the other is the entire human race as a species. The preparation of the individual is his attainment of perfection through his deeds. That of humanity as a whole involves the preparation of the entire human race for the world to come. Now, this is really important now. In order to be able to do this, we have to have a structure of humanity which engenders free will. Man was created with a good urge, known in Hebrew as the Yetzer HaTov. Now, the Yetzer HaTov is not good. It is something which leans you, inclines you, urges you to do good. And he was created with an evil urge, known as a Yetzer Hara, which is not intrinsically evil. It's just something which leans to, inclines to, pushes to, towards that which is mundane. Now let's get this straight. What is the Yetzer Hara? What is the Yetzer Tov? The Yetzer HaTov, the inclination to good, is the spiritual aspect of humans known as the soul. There are 6 elements to the soul. It's not a straightforward. This is the diagram of a human soul. The lower elements of the soul are genetically encoded and physical. That is the human consciousness, known as the Nefesh HaBahamis, the animal soul. The top end of the Nefesh Bahamis, the best of it, the spitz of it, the most refined element is called the nefesh hasichlis, and that's the human intellect, which is far more developed in humans than in other animals. And then what changes humans from animals is the spiritual components which they don't have. A beluga whale, a horse, a dog, a cat will have a neshama, a nefesh bahamis, an animal soul, and it will have a nefesh hasichlis. Beluga whales have very, very, very developed nefesh hasichlis, while a worm doesn't have such a developed nefesh hasichlis, not as much intelligence there. But it's that which acts as a jackplate for spiritual concepts. The spiritual concepts we need to know now, the ruach, which is known as the spirit, which is specifically involved in being able to speak. Human speech is different from that of other creatures. And then on top of that, something called the neshama, which is the slang term for the whole soul. People tend to call the whole thing a neshama. It isn't. The neshama is one of a group of 5 or 6 elements, depending upon how you're counting, of the entire matrix, which means it can't be a bit of God. Can't be a bit of God. This is not it's godly, but it's not God himself. It's very, very lofty. It's very, very spiritual, but it is not God. Because above the neshama is the chai, above that's the yechida. But as far as we're concerned, the neshama is key for us because that's the yetzer hatov. That's the spiritual element which is pulling the body towards good. Remember I told you about the analogy of a boat with a chain and an anchor on the end? And each link of the chain in the anchor is connected to the boat. So if you're to pull on the chain, the boat itself will kind of wobble up top. So too, every element of the soul is like a link in the chain going up to the boat at the top. And the actual physical body is the anchor which is mired in the silt of the seabed. The body, the actual physical, anatomical, physiological casing to the suit, to the soul, is the Yetzer Hara in most cases. Your drive to physicality is done by the guf, is done by the body. So the body is at loggerheads with the soul. When there's a mitzvah, you get up in the morning and you want to have a cereal for breakfast, and you have an existential question. Should I have Cocoa Pops or should I have chocolate Weetabix? 2 sugar cereals popular in the United Kingdom, right? So your body's, oh no, that's not a bechira, free-willed tussle between body and soul. What should I do? You're basically asking your guf, your body, what do you gain more pleasure from? The Cocoa Pops or the chocolate Weetabix? If you're going to say, well, the chocolate Weetabix, then it's a no-brainer for the chocolate Weetabix. Your body would say, of 2 types of pleasure on offer, I'll take the bigger pleasure, thank you very much. If you offer me tea or coffee, I'm going to be the one with I get most pleasure from, right? That's not a bechira decision. That's like an animalistic decision. That's like a tiger can choose where it wants to spray its chemical marker or who it wants to like make a home with, or a duck can pick a particular twig for its nest. It doesn't matter. That's fine. That's all coming from the instinct of that person. Here's the thing. If you wake up and it's a fast day, it's the Day of Atonement, and you go to your kitchen and you're like, should I have chocolate Weetabix? Or should I have Cocoa Pops? Then the neshama will go, no, hold on, not today. You know today is a Day of Atonement. You can't do that. Today's a day that we don't eat. And the guf will go, the body will go, oh, I'm hungry. Every day I eat. What's the difference? So now the body is pulling towards eating the cereal, and the neshama, the soul element, is saying, no, not today. We don't eat today. You can eat later tonight, but you can't eat this. You can't eat today. So it's like, no, so there becomes that nair. If that's a tussle for that person, that's a bechira decision. Real bechira is only a tussle between guf and neshama, body and soul, Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Hatov. If there's a tussle between a moral, ethical concept, not to eat food on Yom Kippur, which is a moral, ethical thing, you're criminal for doing that. It goes against the law, versus the body's deep desire to want nourishment on a particular day, then it becomes a tussle between spirit and body. That's a free will decision. There's no free will decision outside the concept of a commandment and a sin. That goes for Gentile and Jew alike. Gentiles have commandments, Jews have commandments. If then the neshama is telling them, don't do this, and the body's saying, let's do this, it's a genuine, full, bechira decision, the outcome of which will be judged and will be recompensed accordingly. Has to be that way. This allows the human race to include some individuals who are good because they have followed their good urge, as well as others who are evil because they have succumbed to or followed their evil urge. Ultimately, the evil ones must be cast aside and the good ones gather to form a perfected community of the future. Why? We said that there's no ability for evil to enter Olam Haba. Can't have any evil there. It's for this community that the future world and all of its good are intended. Why? Have I done with you the two reasons as to why there's no evil in Olam Haba? Have I done that? I'm not sure I have. Let's get this straight. Evil is a goop, as it were, that God created. He had to create it. It was necessary to provide contrast. Very, very important. That contrast is something which acts as a barrier between God consciousness and you, so that you can be clouded, so that you can make a decision and say, what should I do? You can only do that if you're struggling with some kind of lack of clarity or evil which is going on, right? If everything was good, how could you be rewardable for picking the good? If the only thing that was happening was the vegetables, would you get a sticker for eating your vegetables? There was no high cholesterol sausages available. The only thing was lettuce leaves. Well done. You know what I mean? You can't get rewarded for something unless you had an option not to do it. God had to create evil. Very, very necessary stuff. It's actually very good for us because it gives us justification if we utilize it correctly. But you can't have any evil in Olam Haba. Olam Haba is the place where God wants to reveal himself to you and have a very, very intimate, close relationship with you. Now, the problem is that evil is the goop that he created to be a break between his consciousness and yours. He's got to get rid of it because leaving it there acts as a mechitza. It acts as a mechitza, as a barrier, an interposition between him and you. If it's a barrier between him and you, when he wants that relationship with you, the evil itself will stop that relationship from happening because that's what he created to act as a barrier. For bechira, for free will purposes. But it's got to go at some stage, along with your free will, because now's the time to have the level of closeness. You're reaping the outcome of what you sowed in this world. So it's not about seeds anymore, it's about grown wheat. It's about outcomes, right? There's another reason you can't have any evil in Olam Haba. Let's say you did allow evil to enter. Let's say, Adolf Hitler moved in next door to you. And as an Ashkenazi Jew, you probably have many family members that were murdered by him. It was not so cool. What's the problem? The problem is it would make those who did get there feel uncomfortable. Make you feel uncomfortable. If Adolf Hitler moved in next door, right? What's the problem? If he stays there, he's not going to bother you. He doesn't play loud music after 11 o'clock at night. No ASBO orders are needed. So let him enjoy. No. The fact that he's a mass murderer and he's murdered members of my family means I won't feel comfortable having him next door. Problem. God can't give of his good and ruin the reward to the righteous by allowing evil in. If he allows evil to seep into the system, not only is that a goop between him and you, which means it's already been locked out, can't be there anyway, but if he were to allow it in, it would make those who have earned their right to be there feel uncomfortable. God can't make you feel uncomfortable. If his giving to you is uncomfortable, he's failing. And if he's failing, his perfection isn't happening. And that can't be. So there's two individual, mutually exclusive reasons as to why there could be no evil in Olam Haba. One is it acts as an interposition, a mechitza. And one is it would ruin the reward of the righteous who get there. Because of these two reasons, evil is locked out of Olam Haba. It's double locked out. Which means evil must be temporary. It's got to be time-bound. It's got to be time-bound. Because it's got to go. It's serving a fantastic purpose. We need it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Bizarre. Evil's a good thing. Is evil a bad thing? No. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing. In the overall purpose, it's a vital element. It's like, putting in self-raising flour or something, or baking powder into a cake. You don't want to eat baking powder. It doesn't taste very nice. But while it's in the cake, in the preparation process, in the cooking, it's very, very good. It gives off carbon dioxide, fluffs up the cake. But then you don't want the carbon dioxide, you don't want the baking powder inside the bubbles. You just want the carbon dioxide, the air, as it were. And so then you want the carbon dioxide out. You want the baking powder out. So too, you want the evil in Olam Hazeh to give you the ability to choose. But then you want it rid. You don't want it in the final product. That's why there's no evil in Olam Haba. Olam Haba must be this world with no evil in atomic structure, in creation, in body, in spiritual, at all. It has to be purged completely and utterly. Totally wiped out. It has to be. It has to be, otherwise God giving can't be perfect. And if God's giving can't be perfect, perfection is failing, and perfection can't fail. We'll carry on with what happens when people make good and bad decisions, what the mixing of good and evil is within your own psyche and the effect of that, and why there has to be a judgment process for you to know clearly the amount of good and evil you have inculcated within your psyche, within your mind, so that you accept and understand why you've been placed in that position in Olam Haba and why it's vital you accept that. We'll talk about that next time. Interesting stuff, thought-provoking. I look forward to seeing you next time. We'll start next time in section 2, chapter 2.3. And I look forward to seeing you then. All the very best.